Hello, everybody. My name is Alexis Brignoni or Briggs, and I am the main developer of iLEAPP. It's a tool developed to parse iOS devices, iPhones, iPads, and the like. And this is a project called, in broad scope, called Leaps, and they're a community project. I work at it with a lot of goodwill folks in the community as a triaging tooling that we can use on those extractions. There's iLEAPP, like I said, for iOS, aLEAPP for Android, vLEAPP for vehicles, cars, and a whole bunch more. And the reason for these videos is that I want to start a series of them. And this series of videos, I'm calling them the Mobile Forensic Explainer or Explainers. And the purpose of them is to take those artifacts within the different leaps. And today we're starting with iLEAPP and discuss a little bit about them. We're going to talk about what the artifact is, how it shows on the tool, reporting wise, what's the meaning of the artifact, and maybe a little bit of how you go about looking at the code and making sense of what happened, how it was parsed. And the idea is that you'll feel a bit more confident with what the tool output gives you, or as a general learning tool, so you know what happens behind the scenes when you're working on your digital forensic examinations. Okay, so if this interests you, you can always go first and get the code itself. You can go to my repository, add the address down here, github.com, abrignoni, and then iLEAPP, and download that. If you're watching the video and you never run a Python script, I have a video for that. I will put in the notes, and you can watch the video, and then you will understand how to run a Python script using the leaps as the example. So you should be set on that, right? And then beyond having the code, you need test data so you can run and test the code out. So I highly recommend Josh Hickman's free, no cost, publicly available images. He has kindly provided Android and iOS forensic extractions for you to test and do tool testing, validation, and the like. One of the iOS ones even has a matching macOS extraction, as well as a sysdiagnose log. And don't worry, we will make videos on those as well. So get the code, get the data, and then we can start working. Now, what's the topic that brings us today, this inaugural topic? Well, I want to talk about app directories in iOS. And why is this important? Well, let's say you're running your tool on your extractions, and maybe the tool does not recognize an app that you're interested in based on your case or your function. So what do you do? Well, you will have to go into the location within the device, that extraction that contains the app data that you're interested in. And you can pull that out and then do a manual or semi-manual examination of those. And that's fine. But the first step is figuring out where is that data residing so you can get it out, right? Another example would be as you're waiting, like a triage scenario where you're working on your tool to work on the full extraction, and then you can target a few of those apps that are of interest. You got to go get them, right? So where's the data at? So let me show you here. The data is located at this path within the device, within the extraction, private, bar, mobile data application. And look, I wrote GUIDs there. GUIDs. Why did I put that there? So let me show you. You're not familiar with it. Let me show you here a picture of how that looks. So as you can see here on the left is a tree hierarchical, tree structure, and you go private, bar, you see there mobile, and then you see application. Data, and then application. And look at the right side. Look at all those GUIDs, right? And the global user identifying numbers, right? Well, the thing with that is that if you're looking for, let's say, Dropbox, just the first app that came to mind, can anybody tell me which one of these folders is the Dropbox folder for that app? I mean, which one is it? It's a whole bunch of GUIDs. And the thing with these GUIDs is that when you install the application, it gives you a GUID for that data location. If you reinstall the app, that GUID changes, right? If you delete the app and reinstall it, it changes. If you update, delete the app, or install it, you will get changing GUIDs. And the GUID that you will find on one device for an app will be totally different on another device for the same app. Okay, so we need to be able to map those GUID numbers to actual application names. Okay, application names in these devices, we call them bundle IDs. Also reverse URL names, and I'll show you that in a second. So what do we do here? Well, there are two main ways that, and there's more, but the two main ways I want to discuss today that iLEAPP uses to make that relationship is based on two particular artifacts, right? And they're categorized in the tool under the installed apps category, okay? The first one is gonna depend, and let me take this screen out here. It's gonna depend on the contents of a particular database called the application state database, right? It's part of the front board structure in iOS devices. That's beyond the scope, but look it up. It has to do with how the phone tracks apps that are installed, where they're located, and all that. So you can Google that on the back end. But that application state database has that relationship. It will match the application where it's located, the actual app itself, and also the data directories that I just showed you, which keeps information. Be aware, applications keep data in different other places, right? But one of the main ones is this data application directories, right? GUID name directories, right? So let's now, let me show you those. Let's open here the tooling. So I'm gonna run here iLEAPP, and I'm gonna share it with you, okay? All right, let me share that screen real quick. There we go. Make it really large. Perfect. So this is the tooling, right? And you can see here on the left side, left, right, well, on this side, right here, all the different artifacts, right? And it's kind of cumbersome finding two within so many. So what I did is I'm gonna load a profile. You're not gonna see it on screen because it's gonna show up on my screen, but that's fine. I'm gonna load a profile, and I will do a video on that in the future. When I load my profile, you see that all the ones that I don't care about are deselected. And if I scroll down and look for the blue checks, there they are, right? The ones that I'm interested in. So you can see here the category, install apps. And the second one is called application state. That's the one that I was talking about, this database that has that relationship. In addition, we're going to work on the app group listing. What does that mean? Well, like I mentioned previously, applications keep data in that data directory, but also keep it in other directories like the app groups and the shared directories. And I'll show you those as well. Okay. So let's select the extraction that we're going to work on. I'm going to get a file here. I am using an iOS 15 image provided by Josh. Super awesome. And I'm going to put it on my output directory. And let's run it. In addition, I should say, I also run an artifact called iOS build. It tells you about what type of iOS devices, the version, and all that. It's selected by default, but we'll have a video on that in the future. So let's do those two first, right? So it's going to take a minute or so to run, right? And again, it's super important that we understand this, where the applications are and how to quickly match the bundle ID, the name of the application that we're interested in, so we can triage faster and do deep dives, right? Even if your tool parses the app, or I say claim, I shouldn't say claim. It does parse the app, but it might miss things, or it might present it in a way that's not how you would like it. Well, you might have to go manually and do that conversion and do that analysis to provide it to your stakeholders. So that's why all this is important. And like I said, we're going to be going applications, artifact by artifact, discussing them so we can do some learnings. Right, so let's give it a few more minutes. All right, there we go. All right, so it took a minute. And now I'm gonna open the report. So let me share that report with you. All right, where's my report? And it is right here. Okay, so you can see here on the left, the first artifact is the iOS build information I told you about, and we'll do a full video on it in the future. And I want to start focusing on the application state.db, right? When we take that SQLite database and we extract this information, you will have the bundle ID on the left and information that's really important for you. Let me zoom in so we can see it better. All right, let's see. All right, I think that's way better. So notice here the app names. So let's start with the bundle ID. Notice how it says, let me zoom in more, how it says ch.protomail.protomail. Well, again, kind of reverse URL. You put like that extension at the end instead of at the beginning instead of the end, right? And it gives you here a bundle path. What is that? This location is also a GUID name, is where the actual application, the code that runs the application lives. And that's interesting. That's good to know. There's information inside of there in a file that we'll discuss in a second that might be of interest to you. So keep that in mind. You can find that directory there from the application, the program itself, but also the one that we talked about, right? The data application folder that keeps the data that's user generated when the app, as it's working and saving things. No, it's not the only place. It's one of the main places. Okay. And that's pretty easy. So let's say I'm interested. I hit back. That's fine. Let's say I'm interested. I don't know. I said Dropbox. I had Dropbox in this image. No. Let's pick one randomly here from the report. Gmail. Gmail's good enough, right? So you got there com.google.gmail, and then you can go to that data application directory and look for EBF3, and that's where the information for that application will exist. So pretty cool, really easy to get. It took me a minute as opposed to waiting for a third-party tool hours to tell me where the data is. Okay, now before I show you go into a little bit deeper, not deeper, but go talk about the app groups, I want to show you that database real quick. So let me stop sharing the screen and share another screen. So what happens is that when you run iLEAPP, it generates for you or takes out of your extraction if you're doing a compressed zip file or a tar file. What it does is as it's working through files, it keeps copies of them so you can manually give them a look. So what you can see here is within the iLEAPP report folder. This is one that I did yesterday, but let's do the one from today. It's the same image, but let's do the one from today. You see here in that report that's generated by the tooling an index.html that's that we were watching a second ago, and the HTML for each artifact that was run. You go to the temp folder, and I call it temp because originally I thought about deleting it after the tool ran, but then I decided to keep it because what you have here is a copy of the data in that hierarchical order, the data that was parsed by the tool. And you can see here application state.db, right? And so you can take that application state.db and work with it manually if you need to, right? Or to validate the report that the tool gives you. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now I want to show you this again, getting all the learnings we can. Let's go and open that database real quick and see what we get. So let's stop that screen for a second here. And let's open, I'm gonna go and open the code, all right? What that means is that we're gonna look at how the tool does it. And again, if you don't know Python, don't sweat it. It's gonna be a really simple explanation just to show some things of interest. So let me make this a little bit larger view. Where's my thing is, Command Shift plus, right? Yep, perfect. I'm gonna look for the artifact in question. So I'm gonna go to the scripts folder, the artifacts folder, and I'm gonna go to application state. That's how I called it. Now, Python is really easy. And you might say, "Well, it's easy for you." No, it is easy. I have a whole series of videos. If you're interested in learning Python for forensics, no fluff, just getting data, pulling important stuff out, and simple reporting. Get the rubber meets the road type of coding class, and it's available. Also, I'll put the link in the notes. So you're gonna read code from top down, left to right. So first you see some imports, some libraries. Libraries means data that comes from other places that we will use. The part that I want to focus on is here on line 16. Here's a SQLite query, right? And if you're familiar with SQLite, there it is. I'm highlighting it. You can take this query, run it against a database, and compare those results. So you can change that query, work with it, but it's really easy. So if you're not sure how the script pulled that data out from that SQLite database, the query is right here. Boom, right? And you can go and do more testing on it or make it better. And then below that, it pulls out, and by looking at this, as it pulls out the data from the database, it finds itself that it accesses a binary plist, right? An NSKey archiver type of binary plist, right? And from that binary plist, it then extracts the bundle identifier, which is the bundle name, right? The name of the application, and the path and the two paths that we saw in the report, okay? And then it creates that data, puts in a report here at the bottom. And again, I'm telling you, I'm not gonna this is not a Python class, but I just want to show you, just by looking at this, you have a feeling of what happened. You know that, hey, it's a SQLite database. Here's the query. I see plist here, like plist lib library of lib. All right, so BP list, right? Or BIP list. And you take the data out. So you got a pretty good sense of what the tool does and how it does it. Awesomeness. Right, so that's one way of making that connection between those directories and the application names themselves. What's the second way? The second way, like I mentioned, is through I say second way, but another way of identifying different folders, GUID name folders that are relevant to your application is by looking at app groups and looking at different group listings. Now, there is no database that keeps these, okay? I'm gonna recommend to you this article. It's a few years old, still super relevant, from the Magnetic Forensics blog. I think Chris Vance wrote this. I'm pretty sure he did. Tracking the bundle IDs for those shared containers that I'm talking about, those shared containers, okay? This is really important. Data that doesn't reside in the data application folders we just discussed that are referenced by the application state database. There are other folders that the app put important data, either images or different things. They will be located in a different location, also GUID-based name, but there's no database to match in. So how do we figure those out? So let's go back to the report. And again, this path will be also in the notes for you to click on or copy paste on. Let me show you again the report so we can look at those. I think I closed it, but no problem. We can open it real quick. All right. The report is open, and now let me share it with you. Where's my tab here? There we go. Boom. So let me also zoom that in. So notice that I just clicked on the bundle ID, app group, and plugin kit IDs, right? And I'm gonna zoom in so we can see those and have an understanding how they work. So there's app groups and plugin kit plugin type of directories. The link, and let me zoom in more. The link I provided previously, and I'm gonna show you here once more, has a full-on explanation on how they work and what are they used for. Okay, so again, highly recommended reading. This video is long as is, so I'm not gonna go into those details. It's super important. that you understand what type of data can be residing in these directories. And if you notice here, for example, let's look at the app group on the top for the podcast application. You have here is in the mobile container shared app group directory. And I have to say it real quick, the apps can be put in groups, especially if a developer has multiple apps. They can have multiple groups. Sometimes an application will have multiple programs or apps within a main broad family of apps. And this is important because this is how apps are able to communicate with each other. They have to have an app group so they can talk to each other. The link has more information, right? But it's also GUID name. So if you go to the mobile container shared app group, you can see there the path on the screen. You'll see GUID directories. You can figure out what application it belongs to, both for app groups and plugin kit directories. And you might ask me, well, but you said there's no database to figure them out. How does this work? Well, I'm going to show you. The cool thing about this research that was done by myself and others, and I'm going to share with you now the containers directory as pulled by iLEAPP. Let's look at that window, and this one. I'm going to close here this part because this is there, and I'm going to show, oops, sorry, containers. Okay, let's look at shared first. See the app groups there? Look at all the GUID directories, right? How do we figure that out? Notice here at the, it's kind of like washed out font, color of the font, right? It's not white, it's kind of like grayish. It's a plist, com.apple.mobilecontainermanager.metadata.plist. It's really long. Notice it starts with a dot. When files start with a dot in these type of operating systems, that means that it's hidden to the user. So you have to, and if you're on a Mac like myself, I think it's Command-Shift-Dot to make them viewable. So they're not easily accessible. They're like hidden. So you unhide them and you can look at them. Each of these folders has one. I'll tell you more. The app folder, not the data container folder, the one we saw in the previous report, the second column, bundle ID, and the second column is the app itself. There's also one of these playlists there. It has awesome information in regards to how the application was installed, when, and all that type of stuff. So in this case, this playlist tells us what application this GUID belongs to, right? This app group. And even the plugin kit directory we're talking about also has the same playlist in it. So with that being said, let's look at that code so we can make sense of how that works. So let's share the code again. Right, in this case, instead of looking at application state, we're gonna look at, I saw it here, app group listing. All right, so you'll see here that I mentioned it's a plist, right? So we're gonna load that plist, and again, there's some libraries here for that, and it's gonna look for certain values to report on, right? Like the MCM metadata identifier key. That's where the bundle ID name resides. And it will then report appropriately on it, okay? And again, I'm not gonna go into details, but that's how it does it. And that's important. I actually had a case where my assumption is that garbage collection was not executed on time, or at least it didn't execute by the time we did the image of the phone. And I found one of these GUID directories and I couldn't find, what was happening with it. So I opened that plist, I figured out what the application was. The application was not installed on the phone anymore. But I have evidence based on this plist and this GUID name directory that the application was installed and around when. So that's pretty good information there to have that evidence, okay? All right, so recapping. If you need to get access to a particular application quickly, that folder will be a GUID name. You will not be able to look at it and figure out, oh, it's Dropbox or it's whatever it is. You need to have that relationship. You need to go into application state and look for that, or you could run the tool. At least the iLEAPP tool will get it in a minute, right? If you're in a hurry, while you wait for your main tool to do its thing, okay? If you want to dig deeper into other directories, that are relevant to the application that you're working on. Look at those group listings, those shared app groups, the plugin kit directories. The link I provided previously has a whole bunch of good information, and I will teach you what that means and why is that important. And then you can do a deep dive or a triage efficiently and really target it without having to waste a lot of time. All right. Well, that's all for today for this first episode. I hope it was useful. I'm gonna make a playlist with all these videos. I will also put these videos in the repo in GitHub, the repo wiki pages, so you can also access them there. And these videos will serve as documentation for the applications as we move forward. So again, thank you so much for your time. I hope it was helpful, and have a good day.